just as introductions, I think everybody probably knows me, but my name is Marilyn. I work at the Juanita Cole Center. I'm the program specialist over there. I will be recording today's webinar. I'm the host for today's webinar. And as I mentioned at the beginning, basically what webinar means is that our attendees can see and hear us, but we cannot see or hear them. If you are an attendee and you would like to ask a question or just chat with us, you can use the Q&A function or the chat function, which if you're using a computer are going to be located at the bottom of your screen, or if you're using an iPad or a tablet, they're going to be located at the top of your screen. So feel free to use those at any point. And if you're a person who types slowly, which is totally reasonable, you can use the raise hand function that's at the bottom or the top of your screen, depending on the device. And when I see that, I'll know to give you a couple extra minutes to finish your typing before we move on. So without further ado, I would like to thank and introduce Margaret and Jackie, who also work with me at the city, and I'll let them just sort of introduce themselves.
Okay, I'm Jackie Conan. I think I know some of you. Hello, Marissa. I hear you're here today. I am a volunteer program manager with the city, and I specialize in all things outdoors. My primary responsibility is to support the operations facility and all the groups out there. Additionally, I support the advisory boards and committees, and also run a summer program called Team Tualatin. And Margaret.
Like Jackie, I'm a volunteer program manager. Primarily, I manage programs in the library, youth programs like Preem Takeover and Summer Teen, and also volunteer programs that support library operations in the circulation and in programming. So I also, when we have community events, I support community events with volunteer help, and that is a whole lot of fun. And that's basically what I do. Thanks you guys for coming.
So welcome to Volunteerism and how to contribute to your community and have fun doing it. I thought it would be fun to start with a panel discussion between Margaret and Marilyn and myself about the experiences that we've had volunteering, specifically what were the benefits and the hidden surprises. So each of us is going to tell you about a volunteer experience and what we gained from that. And when I put in hidden surprises, I was think about the word pitfall, because that does happen in volunteerism, but they usually end up being a hidden surprise in that you learn something about yourself or about the world, or it makes you a better person or helps you understand yourself a little bit more. So Margaret is going to start off with her experiences, and please, as we're speaking, enter your experiences in the chat as well as your benefits and hidden surprises so that Marilyn can discuss those as we work through this question.
Well, I think that my first volunteer experience was when I lived in Los Angeles, and this was, oh gosh, many decades ago, but I volunteered for LA, AIDS Project LA, and I was a meal driver for folks who were homebound with AIDS, and the hidden surprise was that the folks that I was visiting were everybody. They were just like you and me. They were just regular folks who happened to be pretty sick. When I came to Portland, I also continued with Cascade AIDS Project, helping to support folks who had AIDS. And then I volunteered at Our House of Portland, which is a residential care facility for folks who had AIDS. And I cooked lunches and breakfasts there. I've also volunteered for SMART, which is Start Making a Reader Today, which is really fun. You get to read to children. And I parlayed my volunteer experience into my first volunteer management job with the Metropolitan Youth Symphony. Following that, I managed volunteers for Oregon Ballet Theater and then the Grotto. And here I am at the city, and I'm now in my 6th year working with Jackie to manage volunteers in the library. The benefits of volunteering were what I learned about just the people, the people that I worked with. And the hidden surprises with SMART, just getting to know children, all kinds of children, and working at different schools and see how they operate and learning about how different children read and enjoy books. There are a lot of hidden surprises and benefits to volunteering. Not the least of which, I got a career out of it.
Should I go next?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I'll speak most about my most recent volunteer experience. I recently, so some of you actually may have attended, I did a webinar about environmental sustainability as just part of my job, just like Juanita Poll Center. And someone who attended that webinar is actually, well, Counselor Brooks. She attended that webinar and she's was starting this group called the Tualatin Sustainability Network. And based on that webinar, she invited me to join that group. And it's been really interesting. I haven't had a lot of volunteer opportunities, especially during the pandemic. And so I was really excited to just have an opportunity to even try anything. And it's a topic about which I'm extremely passionate. Obviously, I wouldn't have done a whole webinar on it if I wasn't. And I just have felt a lot like I haven't had an opportunity to do anything with that passion in a long time. And so joining this group, at first it seemed like, oh, it's going to be a bunch of meetings and a bunch of meeting people. But we just did our first action this past Saturday. Jackie, you were there, we saw you, where we went around Tualatin and we picked up trash on the side of the road. And I definitely have in a moment where I was like, oh, I'm not sure if we're going to have all that much trash in Tualatin. You don't look around and see a lot of trash. And oh my gosh, there was so much trash. The amount of things that were even just like in areas that drain to the ocean, like, and those are very clearly like within our city, where areas where it's going to drain to the ocean, just the amount of litter in those areas was absolutely astounding. And it was really eye-opening. And one of the things that I think was just like such a surprise in a pleasant way was the number of people who came out for that particular event. In total, I think we had just shy of 30 people, and it was miserable and raining, and yet we had a lot of people there, and we picked up so much trash. Like you wouldn't even believe. If you have a chance to look up the Tualatin Sustainability Network on Facebook, you'll see some of the photos. And it was really so pleasant and surprising to be able to remove that much pollutant from our area. So definitely just like such a positive experience overall, really pleasant.
Awesome. It's an amazing group. It was fun. I happened to be there with a Hug a Park project and happened to feel the warmth and the energy and the enthusiasm coming from the group as they gathered. And as we get further on at the end of this workshop, I will have a resource guide with you, and the Tualatin Sustainability Network is on the resource guide and a way to connect with them. So we'll hear more about that. I'm going to talk about my current volunteer position. I was interested personally in hiking the Pacific Crest Trail. I thought I might like to do all 2,650 miles and take 3 months to do it. And I thought, I should probably learn something more about this other than reading Cheryl Strayed's book, Wild. And so I found out that you can volunteer on the Pacific Crest Trail. And so I just jumped in with both feet, didn't know anyone, ended up in a car with strangers commuting to a trail, learning how to make tread on a trail, how to cut logs off a trail, how to take out brush, how to make drain dips, how to repair washouts. But I found I was working with 5 people who had all hiked the Pacific Crest Trail. So I got all that information, and I really liked it. And I learned that you can become a crew leader and take people out and teach them these skills. I learned that if you were a crew leader, you got to go to Trail College for free. And Trail College, they feed you. You sleep in a really awesome little cabin in the woods. You get to take wilderness first aid courses for free. You get to learn to be a sawyer, which means you can learn how to cut ginormous logs off a trail using a crosscut saw. So these benefits, all this learning and all this growth, these were all parts of being a volunteer, and it was all free. I learned so much. But the main thing, the big surprise, which I didn't even think would happen going in, is that my family got really interested in this. And they love to hike sections of the trail, and they love to pick up hitchhikers who are Pacific Crest Trail hikers and give them a ride to Dairy Queen. And they're just, it's just interesting how enthusiastic my children are about it. So I'm going to show you a photo. This is my section of the trail. Let me get back on here, share screen. And here we go. I hope you can see that. Do you guys have that up?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
There we go.
Okay. So this is my section of the trail. I'm the crew leader for a 7-mile section. It's called North and South Matthew Lakes. It's actually Mathieu, it's French, but people say Matthew Lakes. This is South Sister, and this is South Matthew Lake. There's also a North Matthew Lake, but that's another benefit of volunteering is I get to go visit this beautiful place at least 3 times a year and make sure the trail is up to speed. So we'll give you some information on how to get connected with the PCTA also if you like the woods and you like hiking. Did we have anything in the chat, Marilyn?
Not so far, but we did have a couple more people who joined us. So I just want to remind everyone that you can use the Q&A function or the chat function that are at the bottom of your screen if you're using a regular computer, or at the top of your screen if you're using a tablet like an iPad. And you can use those 2 buttons to communicate with us. And again, if you are a slow typer and you need an extra minute, you can also click the raise hand button, and I will give you a little extra time to write out what you're thinking about. So if you want to share anything about your volunteer experiences, please do so using those 2 methods.
All right, so our next question, and we really are going to encourage you to enter this into the chat. That question is, what are your interests and passions that could lead to a volunteer opportunity? That could be a 1 word or 2 words. So please enter that in the chat so we can get a good feeling for the group and what you're interested in. And hopefully on our resource guide, we'll be able to match up some of those things. Margaret, what about you? Interests and passions that might lead to a volunteer opportunity?
They definitely have. Back in the late 80s, I was really interested in the AIDS crisis, and I could feel it happening around me. So I am feeling helpless in the face of it. I basically got involved with that. I'm also keenly interested in the arts. So I started out as a volunteer with Metropolitan Youth Symphony, and then that led to a position there. And that was wonderful because I learned so much about music and got to sit in on band practice with young musicians, and learned a lot about orchestra leading and a lot about classical music. So if you're interested in the arts, Portland Art Museum, all of the arts organizations around the city, all are looking for volunteers, usually throughout the year. My interest in social justice led me to volunteer with Next Up, which is an organization that used to be the Bus Project, and they are all about voter registration. I did some phone banking to register young voters, so they were really keen about getting the vote out to young voters. Whatever your interests are, whether it's sports, whether it's environmental, like Jackie, whether it's arts, whether it's education. My interest in literacy led to volunteering with SMART. Schools always need volunteers. Hospitals always need volunteers. So whatever you're interested in, whatever floats your boat, whatever ignites your passion, there is definitely a volunteer role out there for you.
Awesome. Marilyn, how about you?
I mean, I talked a little bit about it before. I have a passion for environmental sustainability. And I honestly didn't know that it was gonna go anywhere. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time and someone happened to ask me. But definitely my passion about that has certainly led me to what I would consider one of the most rewarding volunteer opportunities. I will also say that my what I do now, I work for the Juanita Pole Center, which is the Active Aging Center, has definitely had my background, my volunteer background was working with older adults. I have just been passionate about that my whole life, and it has, through many opportunities, eventually led to a career. So I'm really grateful for that, and I think volunteering with seniors is, always rewarding and beneficial for both people involved. So just, I mean, anything can lead to a volunteer opportunity, I think. And also, you'd be surprised what your skills or your passions can bring to an organization. For example, I used to work as a graphic designer, and I think that has been probably the most valuable skill that any volunteer organization has ever been looking for. So it's definitely, I don't use that particular skill or passion a lot. So to have the opportunity to kind of like flex that little muscle of mine has been really, pleasant.
Thank you. I have two passions right now that I'm pursuing. One of them, when I was volunteering in my children's school, helping children read, I learned about children who don't complete a school year in the same school, but because of work or housing situations, they never get a full school year in the same place and therefore fall behind in their education. And I just recently learned of an organization called Circle of Friends, and they specifically mentor children of all ages in the school system, and work with them through moving transitions, and work with them and trying to improve a more linear stream of education. So I'm going to be joining Circle of Friends soon, and I think I'll be making new friends, both students and people who work in the organization. And then my personal passion, I want to start riding the Rails to Trails bike paths throughout the United States. And so I'm going to be, and I don't know how to change a tire on my bike, so I'm going to be volunteering. I just learned of an organization called Wash Bike or Wash Go. I can't remember which it is. I did put it on our cheat sheet here today. And it's all about, they donate 20,000 bikes annually for kids, and being a volunteer means you get to learn how to repair a bike and put it together so it can be reused for a kid. So those are my interests and passions. Did we have anything come up in our chat?
Not so far. I don't know why y'all are being so quiet, although we do have someone who joined via phone, so they're not going to be able to type in the chat, unfortunately. I know some folks are very passionate about topics, so I hope that they will enter those things into the chat function for us.
Okay. Well, Margaret has prepared a wonderful piece on the benefits of volunteering for us.
I will take that away. One other thing that I just wanted to say about following your passions, perhaps if you're retired from a career and you have certain skills that you want to bring back to the world and share those skills, volunteering is a great way to do that. If you prefer to try something completely new, expand, lay down new neural pathways, make new friends, put yourself maybe out of your comfort zone and do something completely different from what you might have ever done before, volunteering is a great way to try that out. It's just, great way to just sort of shake up your brain a little bit and use your body in a different way. So there are so many benefits to volunteering, and I'm going to talk about them right now. Let's see if I can bring up my share screen. I'm going to hit share screen. Talk me through this, Marilyn.
Okay, so you're going to go to share screen, and then you're going to choose the PowerPoint window.
There it is. Okay, share. So the benefits of volunteering, or how to get the helper's high. The helper's high is something that we're also going to talk about. I have a link to another YouTube video where Chris Jarvis is going to talk about that. But the benefits of volunteering are, go to my next slide. You can model generosity in your community, to your family, to yourself. Volunteering with indoors or outdoors is good for your health. It induces all kinds of, stimulates your mind, stimulates your body, keeps you active, whether you volunteer with one of Jackie's programs or you come into the library and when we're open and shelve some books, pull some holds. And if you are subscribed to the Dick Van Dyke School of Active Aging, moving is the best thing that you can do. Next slide. This family here, they were helping us with the take and make. So that's the Diaz family right there, 2 of the 3. They were helping us with take and make. They had never done anything like this before, so they learned how to put together craft activities that we give out here in the library every day. The community has responded so well, and thankfully for these activities that kids can take home every day and make something. You can make friends, and you definitely will enrich your community through volunteering. It's important to give back, as you all know. I'm going to switch over now to the Chris Jarvis. Here we go. I'm just going to hit start, or I'll actually back it up a little bit to get it to the beginning.
Okay, so
And
Margaret, you're going to have to stop sharing your current screen.
okay,
And then you're going to go to share screen again.
okay.
And then at the bottom,
right,
click share sound and optimize for video clip.
that's already clicked.
And then go ahead and click the Internet Explorer and hit share screen.
Okay. Do we see why do we help?
Yep, we're good to go.
Okay.
Other people. Why do we volunteer our time to help others? What is it about giving our time, resources, and energy that is so compelling to us as a species that we do it all over the place? Not just here, not just in this place, but across the country, around the world, every culture, every society, all throughout human experience. Human beings help each other. But why? The answer to this question is very important to us because we work with companies to design and implement their employee volunteering programs. So that means that employees across companies are looking to mobilize people to get involved in communities where they live and work. Millions of people around the world. So the recent explosion in neuroscience around the world, again, in the last few years, has offered some insight as to what the answer is. And it turns out the answer to this question is buried deep down inside of our neural net, in our brains. And there are 2 compelling drivers that make us want to help other people. The first has to do with pleasure, and the second has to do with pain. The first is part of a reward system known as the helper's high. Now, we have a number of reward systems as a species that help us persist and move forward, look after ourselves, look after our offspring. It has kept us alive as a species. And when we help other people, when we take our time to contribute to them and help them, and we can see their face, it's absolutely critical. We can't be helping a stat or an issue, or we can't be just helping by stacking chairs, although that may be a part of it. We have to be able to visualize a person's face to get this reward, this helper's high to happen. And the other part is we have to understand the significance of the task. How is what I'm doing benefiting that person? If those conditions are met, there's a concoction of endorphins that are released in our brain that give us a feeling of euphoria. It's very similar to a yoga high, a runner's high, and there's another very, very important activity that as a species we're participating in an ongoing basis that has made sure that we're all still here, procreation, right? Sexual activity. And this idea of volunteering to help others, in science, when they study it, they realize that it's very similar in its concoction to a yoga high, runner's high, and sexual activity. So when you go to volunteer next time, if you have a t-shirt that says, I volunteer at sexy science underneath, you wouldn't be far off the mark. It's about right. That's the pleasure. The pain is the other side of the thing. So I'll give you a story. I'm cutting some radishes at the dinner party. You're standing across the counter from me, and I don't know if this happened to you, but the knife's a little slippery and it slips, and I cut the end of my finger off, and there's blood everywhere, right? Now, I feel that pain in my brain through something called the pain matrix. It's all through my brain. It lights up, neurons light up, and I know I got a problem. I need to do something about it. You're across the counter, and you're looking at me, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, there's a lot of blood. Wow, that's disgusting. Okay, that's the first reaction. The second reaction is I should get a Band-Aid or a bath towel. That is a lot of blood. I don't know what to do. I need help, okay? That's what we call empathy. And there are those 2 reactions. One is aversion, where you can feel it, and the other one is you have to stop the pain. And that is because there are neurons buried deep inside of your brain that cannot tell the difference between when pain happens to you and when it happens to someone else. That's empathy. We want to reach out and we want to do something. So these 2 drivers together work to compel us to help other people, which is a good thing when you think about it. because it's kept us alive as a species. We look after our own people, we look after our group, we protect ourselves from, animals and dinosaurs from getting eaten and that kind of thing. 95% of the world's population's brain works like this. The other 5% have issues, brain issues like psychopathy or autism or something like that. But all of our brains typically fire up when we see someone else in pain and want to do something, unless the default setting kicks in. And the default is we look after our in-group. And that's a problem. It works really well for your in-group. And your in-group are people who look like you, same socioeconomic status, basically. They're from your area. They share your values. You have a lot of empathy for them. You don't have a lot of empathy for people in your out-group. And that's unfortunate. That allows us as human beings to do terrible things to each other. On the one hand, we're very willing to help, intervene, assist, give our time and energy, but not for those people. And for every in-group you have hundreds of out-groups. And there's a way to deal with this. And it is to take advantage of the neuroplasticity of your brain. Until recently, scientists used to believe that the brain is what the brain was about the age of, 14 or 18 or something like that. It's fixed. But now we know that new neural pathways grow, break down, grow all the time. And that's known as neuroplasticity. And what we do with employee volunteering is we take people into a situation where they have an experience with their outgroup, and they're forced to deal with that. And we're looking for 3 fundamental changes to employee volunteering, and they all have to do with perspective. The first change is a psychological change. This is how I perceive myself in the world, right? Who am I? What does it mean? The second is a convictional change. What do I believe to be true about the world? And that's a tough one. This is where implicit bias comes in. And the third one is a behavioral change, how I act in the world. Instead of thinking about employee volunteering in terms of how many walls can I paint or chairs can I stack, we need to start thinking about what kind of change are we seeing inside of a person, because that lasts, that's generational, and that persists. So to do this, you need to make sure the volunteering experience involves 3 opportunities. The first is to alert to the situation. What does this mean? Okay, what is going on? You orient to it. What does it mean to me? And finally, you act. How is my behavior going to change? And creating that kind of space in volunteering isn't easy, but it is possible. And that's the kind of thing that changes our minds literally. So we believe in this stuff so much that a few years ago we began an initiative with the UN. It's known as Impact 2030. And the idea is that we're going to help achieve the Sustainable Development Goals around the world through employee volunteering. And we believe in it so much that we came here to Los Angeles to see what we could do here with the companies. And we met with the Mayor's Fund and the Olympic Committee, and we're exploring opportunities for employee volunteering to help address social issues like homelessness or poverty in this city. And the thing about transformative approach to volunteering is this: it's not just helping other people. It actually affords us the opportunity to go beyond that to something lasting and more permanent, because we can move to a place where we understand what it means to belong to each other. And this is the key. If we can unravel the default setting in our brain of in and out groups, I'm us, I look after us, I don't look after you, this is for me, my problem is you. If we can address it to an immersive learning environment, we can rethink things. We have the opportunity to address the chronic distrust and bias that we see in our socio-political landscape. We can build communities that address these social issues through a sense of belonging to each other and coming together to co-create solutions rather than that's your problem and it's not my problem. So, in your workplace, the question is this: how could employee volunteering contribute to an improved culture, a more inclusive culture, a less biased culture, one culture where there's more teamwork? Is it possible that by going out, taking your teams out and getting involved in the community, you guys could build communities in your workplace where you share more, understand more, and welcome more diversity? So I encourage you to go back to your workplace and consider participating in your employee volunteering programs. And if you don't have one, start one. Thank you.
I just thought it's very heady. I get it, you guys. And I'm just going to go over the
checkers game where grandson and granddad move
Hear
on.
that? Stop that.
This is the pool where cannonball records will be broken. And this is the kitchen where the new boyfriend will unofficially become family. These are the Verbo vacation homes waiting for you to fill with you're together.
Sorry about that. My screen sharing is paused. So is everybody with me still?
Yep.
Great. Okay, I'm going to try to share that one more screen, the last screen of my PowerPoint presentation. We're going to go just to this one. And I'm not going to reiterate everything that he said, just that last paragraph, which is that we can build communities that address social issues through a sense of belonging to each other and coming together to co-create solutions rather than that's your problem, it's not my problem. So if you're looking for a transformative experience, an experience that can transform you and transform your community, volunteering is the way to go.
Awesome. And I know he addressed employee volunteering, and there's a couple things going on in our world right now that are, I think, very exciting. You all have heard of Solve, and Solve is partnering with the city of Portland and has received a lot of money, a grant from the city as well as from a private corporation to get corporations and get groups and start cleaning up Portland. If you go on their webpage, I think they have 3 projects a week, and it's all based on trash pickup and litter in Portland. And obviously, it's a great collaboration between nonprofits and the private sector and business and government to address an issue. So go corporate volunteers and employee volunteer programs.
Jackie works a lot with corporate volunteers, and more organizations, corporate and other organizations, are encouraging employee volunteering. In fact, they even will pay for it. They send volunteers out, and it's a paid day to volunteer. PGE has been doing it for a long time. Jackie works with Leviton. What are some of the other local businesses whose
Abbott, Eaton, the management group, which is a property management company. Autoclore. I mean, they're all here in Tualatin, and most of them get 2 to 3 paid days a year to go out and volunteer. Oh, Lamb Research is one. And
we've had Pacific Foods. Yep. They come out.
Yep. And what's kind of interesting is we have engaged these groups during COVID in small numbers, of course, but they are all, some of them are working on production lines and have never been at home for work because the nature of their work, they can't. And those companies, some of them have gotten incentives for being well. And one group in particular, they volunteered for us 3 times, and they're very proud of themselves because they have not had any illness at all in their workplace during the last year. So there's a lot of great things that come out of corporate volunteering. I had a group last week, and it was a simple hug a park project. And it was the day I saw Marilyn on Saturday. It was rainy, it was yucky, and it never ceases to amaze me. Out of the 9 people that came out, 6 of them had never raked before. So I don't know, right? It just, and so I think, well, they went home and said, well, I learned how to rake. You know, I can put that on my resume today. I learned how to load a 5-yard dump truck. So anyway, they had fun. They got wet. They had fun. They had snacks. And anyway, benefits and hidden surprises of volunteerism. So I'm going to share my screen. It's time to talk about some places for you to start. And has everybody got that sheet there?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So I put together, Margaret and I collaborated on a sheet of the types of things that you can do in Tualatin and in the area. And we're just going to run through them and talk about the programs that we have in the city. So one of them that started during the pandemic is do-it-yourself volunteering. This was inspired by volunteers, by people who already were volunteering with the city and were at home and were distraught and really wanted to volunteer. And they just said, can I go out and cut blackberry on my own? Or can I go out and just pick up litter? Or do you need something that I can do? And so we came up with a program where you can pick the day, the time, the place, the project. You can pick who you do it with. We meet you at the site. We bring you tools. We give you a tour and guidance, and you just follow up whenever you feel like it. An example might be, I have a woman right now, two people right now at Tualatin Community Park, and Michelle has put in 36 hours in a week, 2 weeks picking up trash at Tualatin Community Park, and she sends me photos, and I am amazed every time she has at least one full bag of trash. So go on the city's webpage, go to volunteering, and there's the website there, and we update the project list probably monthly. And the projects come specifically from parks and operations. Put down roots in Tualatin. We do have an event coming up. We're gathering up to 35 people on May 22nd outdoors at Ibach Park. It's actually, we won't be planting at that time, but we'll be removing invasives and taking a tour of 8 years of restoration. At least 4 to 8 times a year, we have a tree planting event, and that's where you'll find it. Tualatin group events. On our volunteer webpage, you'll see group and corporate events. What I've seen more and more is if you have a social bubble team. So some examples are, I have a group of 8 teenage boys whose parents really needed something for them to do. They've all been hanging out. And so we put a project together for them. I had a group of Girl Scouts last week who went out and painted fire hydrants. I had the Tualatin High School cross country team come out. Perhaps you have a faith-based group or a book club or whatever your social bubble is, and you want to do something as a group. That's available through our website. Some city partners that you might want to take a look at are Tualatin River Keepers. If you've ever wanted to kayak or explore the Tualatin River, or help others do the same, that's a great place to go and take a look at what they're up to. Wetlands Conservancy is another city partner, and right now I think they're done with their counting amphibian egg masses. They're doing wetland cleanup, and they are doing outdoor projects. So get on their website. And then this is what Marilyn talked about, the Tualatin Sustainability Network, brand new in our city. And you can see that their mission is to provide opportunities for education and to help people become better environmental stewards. Go check them out, and we'll be hosting them on May 22nd at Ibach Park.
And I can say that we do an activity every other month for people to actually participate in.
Great. I'll probably be there, I think. Friends of Trees, these guys are our partners in every way. These people plant trees all over Oregon and Washington. They need crew leaders, they need volunteers, and they need virtual volunteers as well. So go on their website and take a look. Solve, I think we all know Solve. They're very vibrant right now, and they're doing small group projects all over the city and the region, I should say. And Margaret, do you want to talk about craft prep crew in the library and take and make?
Sure, thanks. So as with many other programs, the library pivoted. We had volunteers in the library every day of the week, all day. And when the library unfortunately closed down, our volunteers went away, but we found ways to stay connected, stay engaged, and offer opportunities for folks to help us support our Take and Make program. So the craft prep crew, they come and they pick up a box of materials, and they pull together these materials and they turn them into the Take and Make activities that maybe some of you have seen in the lobby in the library. And folks come in every single day. We have beginner, intermediate, and advanced activities. So that is a super simple thing to do. Take a box home, fix it, bring it on back, and people do that week in and week out. What else are we doing remotely? We also have done some marking out of library items. Points of Light. Virtual volunteers can complete. Jackie, do you want to talk about that one?
Sure. Points of Light is our national organization, and Margaret and I attend their conferences annually as we can. But if you see it, look at their website, tons of virtual volunteering opportunities. If you want to do something at home, they've got that covered. And most of the websites that I visited in the last couple of weeks, almost every website that you see today, I think 99% of them has done some sort of pivot where they have virtual volunteering opportunities as well as in person. Sites with lots of opportunities. So these are big clearinghouses that have all kinds of projects. Hands on Portland, that will give you options all throughout our area. Just Serve is the same, and then VolunteerMatch. And there's all kinds of interesting things that pop up on there.
We had volunteers transcribing documents for the Library of Congress. Apparently, there are tons and tons of letters and 19th century and early 20th century documents that the Library of Congress needs transcribed. And so if you're interested in that kind of arcane information, old letters, old architectural drawings, just go to the Library of Congress and do some transcribing for them. That's a great, for people who like to sort of peek into history.
That shows you how Margaret and I are connected. That is on this list. When we get there, it's here. So for variety, I've got some local things. Schoolhouse Pantry. Oops, I see a typo there. They have 2-hour shifts for food distribution, but I say it's food distribution. So hopefully you can figure that out. They need lots of help, and there's lots of options. Family Promise is fairly new to Tualatin. They help homeless families attain independence, and there's a wide range of opportunities there, and that's local. Packed with Pride is also local. It's a partnership of the Tualatin Tigard School District, and it is for families facing food insecurity, and that is packing boxes and backpacks for families in need. And then just for some exploratory things, just to go a little crazy, boards and advisory committees right now in Tualatin, we have many openings, and you can find those on our volunteer page. Get involved and shape the future of our city. Tualatin Historical Society, what a group. They, along with Friends of the Library and CERT, were recognized as outstanding volunteer groups last year. They pivoted, they have a brand new web page. They have brand new virtual learning sessions and presentations. They're just a dynamic, wonderful group. And they're just right here in the center of Tualatin. I threw out the Japanese garden, mostly because it's on my list, but you can volunteer there. And I've watched volunteers at that, and they just look so serene and like they're having such a wonderful time up there. Picking up maple leaves off of moss. It just looks great to me. And there's the Library of Congress that Margaret talked about, and there's how to get started with that. Had to put the Pacific Crest Trail on there just in case and I also put SMART on there. Great organization. And they have virtual opportunities. CASA is for becoming a advocate for kids in need. Great organization. I have a friend who does one case a year, one child a year, and it's always an amazing experience for her and the child. Portland Youth Philharmonic, which was Margaret's volunteer opportunity that she learned so much from. Legacy Health, this is their webpage, and they have in-person and virtual volunteering. Here's Washington County Bikes, in case you want to put together bikes and deliver bikes for kids. I did put the Oregon Dog Rescue down. They're a little limited right now, but they do have a foster dog program, which kind of looks interesting to me if you want a dog, but not forever. Dress for Success is is very fun. It's an organization that takes in clothing and then makes private appointments with what do I want to, private appointments with people who need wardrobe and help dressing for job interviews or the workplace. And then Scrap is very fun. I don't know if you guys know what Scrap is, but it's a place in, I believe, Northeast Portland or Southeast. And they just collect things, leftover yarn and material and metal pieces. It's a place full of amazing things, and it's a great place for reusing. Artists go there and buy things and create new things out of old things. And so Scrap needs people, both virtually and in the store. And then Friendly Voice, it's a new one to me, and there's 3 or 4 different organizations that do the same thing. This one looked most safe to me, or most organized to me. And it is simply calling people who may be isolated, just making a phone call and chatting and getting to know someone on the other end of a phone line. And then lastly, Oregon Humanities, really awesome organization. They have a letter writing campaign called Dear Stranger. They have all kinds of different volunteer opportunities. So that's a fun one to check out as well. So I could go on and on. You fill in the rest of that page with things that you find. Do either of you have anything to add to that?
I will drop in the chat. There's the senior loneliness line is a good one for if you want to do volunteering from home. What was that, Margaret?
Portland Art Museum.
Oh yeah.
And then Lansu Chinese Garden. Writing it in right now.
How about from our audience? Does anyone have anything they want to throw in the chat that we all might be interested in?
Yes, Claudia, thank you for asking. We will be sending out that document that Jackie is sharing right now, as well as a recording from this webinar, and contact information for Jackie, myself, and Margaret.
Great.
I'm pretty sure that there's probably a whole lot of nonprofits that we've missed.
Meals on Wheels people, was that on the list?
I didn't put it there because I felt I should have. I just felt like you guys are so connected at JPC, but you haven't been open. So Meals on Wheels.
Yeah, but they are doing a calling, like they'll call people who normally receive their services. So I don't know for sure if they're looking for volunteers for that service, but I would assume so.
Great.
Claudia is asking about SCORE or tax helpers. Oh, AARP is another one. They do.
Yes. Volunteering can look like a lot of different things to different people. So if you're volunteering in your church, if you're volunteering in your community, if you're offering rides to folks to get groceries, this is formal and organized volunteering. But I bet a lot of you are already helping your family or helping your neighbors, fixing a lawnmower, shoveling snow off of a walk. All of this is great volunteering. So it really depends on where you come from, because there are a lot of people in our community that watch their neighbors' kids. And that's volunteering too. These are formal ways to do it. There are a lot of informal ways to do it that people in our community are already doing.